Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
Aaron had always believed he knew Charlotte better than anyone else in the world. 5 years of marriage should mean something. They should create that kind of connection where you can finish each other's sentences, where small gestures communicate more than words ever could. He worked hard as an offshore oil engineer in the Gulf of Mexico, a job that paid well but demanded sacrifices. 2 weeks working out at sea, sleeping in cramped bunks, surrounded by the constant noise of machinery and the smell of oil, followed by 2 weeks at home. It was a rhythm many marriages couldn't handle, but Charlotte had always seemed to manage just fine. She'd send him sweet messages while he was away, photos of the dinner she was cooking, silly videos of their dog, Ted, an ever-energetic beagle. When Aaron came home, she was always waiting at the door, smiling, ready to hug him as if he'd just returned from war. They lived in a 2-story house in the suburbs of Houston, Texas, a quiet neighborhood where neighbors greeted each other and kids rode bikes on the quiet streets. The house had been purchased in his name before they got married, bought with money Aaron had saved during his early years working offshore. It was an investment he'd made at 25, thinking about the future. The backyard had plenty of space where Charlotte grew a small herb garden she used for cooking. They didn't have children yet, a mutual decision to focus on their careers first. Charlotte worked as a manager at a luxury boutique in the Galleria, dealing with demanding clients and high-end fashion collections. It was a job she loved, always coming home with stories about local celebrities and business owners' wives who spent fortunes on dresses. Aaron enjoyed listening to her talk about her day. He liked the liveliness in her voice. But in the past 3 months, something had changed. At first, the changes were subtle, the kind of thing someone could easily overlook if they wanted to keep believing everything was fine. Charlotte started keeping her phone face down whenever she was near him, something she'd never done before. She began mentioning outings with her boutique friends more often, happy hours stretching late into the night, until 10 or 11. Aaron wasn't the controlling or jealous type, so he accepted it without question, trusting her as he always had. But there was something in the way she'd look away when talking about those nights out, something in her tone that didn't quite ring true. One Saturday afternoon, Aaron was sorting through papers in the home office, looking for an old appliance warranty, when he found a crumpled receipt at the bottom of a drawer. It was from an electronics store, dated 6 weeks earlier, showing the purchase of an iPad Pro for $1,200. Aaron frowned, trying to remember when Charlotte had bought that. He certainly hadn't seen a new iPad around the house, and she always used their old shared laptop for everything. When he casually asked her about it that night over fish tacos he'd prepared, Charlotte blinked quickly and said it was a gift for her teenage niece. The answer came too fast, without the natural hesitation someone would show when trying to recall something. Aaron nodded and changed the subject, but the discomfort stayed with him, a cold stone forming in his gut. In the days that followed, Aaron started paying closer attention. He noticed Charlotte took longer showers before he came home from his shifts off, as if she were getting ready for something. She began wearing new perfumes, more intense, sophisticated scents than she'd ever used before. Her underwear, which he occasionally glimpsed in the washing machine, was different too, more elaborate, more sensual pieces he didn't remember her ever wearing. Each small detail added up, painting a picture Aaron didn't want to accept but could no longer ignore. That's when he decided to act. Aaron wasn't the type to sit around waiting for answers to fall from the sky. His job required quick decisions and practical solutions to complex problems. If something was wrong on his platform, you didn't wait for it to blow up before investigating, you acted preventively. So one Tuesday afternoon, Aaron went to an electronics store and bought a discreet security camera, small enough to hide inside a fake smoke detector. It was a high-resolution model with night vision, motion detection, and live streaming through a mobile app. The sales clerk, a young guy with way too much enthusiasm, assured him it was impossible to tell the difference between that detector and a real one. That night over dinner, Aaron casually mentioned to Charlotte that he'd bought a security camera for the living room. "There've been some break-ins in the next neighborhood over," he explained, cutting into a piece of grilled chicken. I figured we should have something installed, since I'm away so much. Charlotte barely looked up from her plate, agreeing with a distracted, "Good idea, honey," while scrolling through her phone with her other hand. Aaron installed the camera the next day, carefully positioning it to capture the entire living room, including the front door and the couch where they usually watched TV together on quiet nights. In addition to the living room camera, Aaron also installed a small outdoor camera pointed at the front entrance, disguised inside the porch light fixture. A week later, Aaron headed out for his usual 2-week rotation on the rig. He hugged Charlotte at the door, smelling the strong perfume she was wearing, and told her he'd always love her. She kissed his cheek and said time would fly, as she always did. But this time, Aaron brought his personal laptop, something he rarely did on the rigs, where internet access was limited and expensive. He'd paid extra for a data plan specifically so he could remotely access the camera feed. The first 3 days were normal. Aaron watched Charlotte come home from work, change clothes, make dinner, watch TV alone, and take Ted for walks. It was oddly comforting in a way. Maybe he'd worried for nothing, maybe his mind had conjured monsters where none existed. But on the 4th day, at 2:30 in the afternoon on a sunny Tuesday, everything changed. Aaron was in his cramped bunk, taking a break between shifts, when he decided to check the feed out of boredom. The app opened to show an empty living room, Ted asleep in his dog bed in the corner. Then the front door opened. Charlotte walked in first, laughing about something, turning to speak to someone behind her. Aaron felt every muscle in his body tense as he saw who followed her inside. It was Gavin, the personal trainer Charlotte had hired 6 months earlier. Aaron knew him vaguely, had seen the guy a few times when he picked her up after training sessions. Gavin was 28, sculpted physique, the kind of looks that made men feel inadequate and women glance twice. Close-cropped blonde hair, tattoos on his arms, a confident smile. Charlotte had always said he was super professional, and that the workouts were really helping. But what Aaron saw on his laptop screen had nothing to do with professionalism. They didn't waste any time. Charlotte grabbed Gavin by his shirt the moment the door shut, and they kissed with a familiarity that made it clear this wasn't the first time. Aaron froze, watching his wife, the woman he'd promised to spend his life with, betray his trust in the most obvious and painful way possible. They moved to the couch, that same couch where Aaron and Charlotte had watched countless movies together, where he'd proposed to her 6 years earlier on a Christmas night lit by twinkling lights. Aaron shut the laptop hard, but he couldn't erase the images from his mind. He lay back in his bunk, staring up at the oil-stained metal ceiling, feeling a mix of anger, betrayal, and something even worse, a deep shame at having been so thoroughly fooled. But Aaron wasn't the type to drown in self-pity. His anger quickly turned into cold determination. If Charlotte thought she could get away with this, she'd completely underestimated who she was married to. Over the next several days, Aaron documented everything meticulously. Gavin showed up every day at 2:30 on the dot, as if they had it scheduled, stayed for 2 or 3 hours, and always left with a long kiss at the door. Aaron took screenshots, saved the videos to an encrypted cloud folder, building a body of evidence that would be impossible to dispute. He also began noticing other details. In one of the videos, he saw Charlotte and Gavin sitting on the couch watching something on the iPad he'd never seen around the house. So that's what she'd bought the tablet for, to watch shows and movies with her lover while her husband was miles away, working to pay the bills. On the 7th day, Aaron did something he'd never done before. He faked a family emergency, telling his rig supervisor that his father had suffered a heart attack and he needed to return immediately. The lie came easily, lubricated by the anger still simmering beneath his calm surface. He took the helicopter back to the mainland and drove straight home, timing his arrival for 2:20 in the afternoon, exactly 10 minutes before Gavin's usual arrival time. Aaron parked in the garage instead of pulling into the driveway as he always did, so they wouldn't hear the car. He slipped in through the side kitchen door, his steps silent on the hardwood floor. Ted came running to greet him, tail wagging wildly, but Aaron signaled the dog to stay quiet. At exactly 2:30, he heard the front door open, the familiar sound of Charlotte laughing, that laugh he used to love, which now sounded like crushing glass. Aaron waited 3 minutes, giving them enough time to settle in, to get comfortable in their false sense of security. Then he calmly walked into the living room. Charlotte and Gavin were on the couch, sitting close, her fingers laced through his. When Aaron appeared in the doorway, their reactions were almost comical, if not so pathetic. Charlotte let out a muffled gasp, and Gavin jumped behind the couch as if he'd been electrocuted. Aaron didn't say anything at first. He simply walked over to the armchair facing the couch, the same brown leather chair where he used to read the Sunday news, and sat down calmly, hands resting on the arms. "Aaron, I can explain," Charlotte started, her voice trembling, her face completely pale. Gavin seemed to be scanning for an exit, his eyes darting from the front door to the back, calculating his chances. Aaron raised a hand, silencing her. "I didn't come here to hear explanations," he said, his voice oddly calm, almost gentle. "I came here to teach a lesson." He picked up the TV remote and, with a few clicks, connected his phone to the 65-inch television dominating the wall. The screen lit up, showing the security camera app interface. "Remember that smoke detector I installed last week?" Aaron asked, gesturing vaguely toward the device on the ceiling. "Well, it turns out real smoke detectors don't cost $400. But hidden cameras do." He started playing the videos from the past 7 days, one after the other. The silence in the room was absolute, broken only by the voices in the recording, the laughter, the intimate murmurs now echoing back at Charlotte and Gavin like accusations. Charlotte began to cry, silent tears streaming down her face as she covered it with her hands. Gavin looked like he was having trouble breathing, his face flushing red up his neck. "You know what I find most interesting about all this?" Aaron continued, pausing the playback on a particularly incriminating scene. "It's not even the betrayal itself. I mean, that hurts like hell, but it's not surprising. People cheat all the time, right? No, what really fascinates me is the stupidity. The arrogance of thinking you could do this in my house, on my couch, and I'd never find out." Charlotte found her voice between sobs. "You were always gone, Aaron. I felt so alone, so abandoned. You chose your job over me, over us." Aaron laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. "Interesting. So you're blaming me for working? For paying the mortgage on this house? For funding your shopping sprees at the boutique where you work? For paying the car payment on the vehicle you drive? Tell me more about how my absences justify you sleeping with your personal trainer on the couch where we ordered pizza and watched comedy movies." Gavin tried to speak for the first time, his voice hoarse. "Dude, look, I didn't know you guys were having problems. She told me you were practically separated, that it was only a matter of time before." Aaron cut him off with a look that could freeze blood. "Quiet. Adults are talking." He turned his attention back to Charlotte. "You know what I did when I got to that rig and saw the first video of you two? I could have blown up, called you yelling, come back right away to make a scene. But I didn't. You know why? Because I wanted to be sure. I wanted undeniable evidence. And now I have it." Aaron picked up his phone and started scrolling through images. "So I did something productive with my anger. I investigated. And I found some fascinating things. For example," he turned the phone to show Gavin the screen, "you're married. You have a wife named Emma and 2 kids, ages 4 and 6. And Emma is 7 months pregnant with your 3rd child. Congratulations, Dad." Whatever little color remained in Gavin's face vanished completely. "You can't, you won't," Aaron tilted his head, pretending to consider it. "Won't what? Tell Emma?" "Oh, too late. I already sent her all those videos last night. Along with screenshots of every message you two exchanged over the past month, which I recovered from her cloud backup. See, Charlotte always used my laptop to watch movies when hers was charging. Her account was still logged in. By the way, Emma knows a good divorce attorney. She thanked me for finally giving her the proof she'd suspected for months. Charlotte let out a low moan, a wounded animal sound. Aaron continued, relentless. And there's more. Charlotte, remember that iPad you bought 6 weeks ago? The gift for your niece? I saw you two using it on the couch to watch shows. So I confronted your sister yesterday. She was confused because her daughter never got any iPad. That was a pretty weak lie, sweetheart. He stood up from the armchair and slowly walked around the room as he spoke, forcing them to turn their heads to follow him. Now let's talk about consequences. Consequences are important, aren't they? They teach us that actions have results. First consequence, I've already filed for divorce. My lawyer has all this evidence. In Texas, adultery is still a factor in property division. You won't see a dime of this house, Charlotte. Second, I sent anonymous copies of these recordings to the HR department at the boutique where you work. Charlotte jerked her head up, eyes wide. You didn't. You wouldn't do that. Aaron smiled coldly. I did. You used the company car, Charlotte. That beautiful BMW the boutique provides for deliveries and VIP client meetings. Except you've been using it to pick up your lover and bring him to our house. The recordings clearly show the company vehicle's license plate parked in our driveway 3 times a week. The company has a very clear policy on misuse of corporate property and conduct that damages the brand's reputation. I read the employee handbook you left on the kitchen table. Gavin tried to get up and head for the door, but Aaron blocked his path. Where do you think you're going? We're not done yet. Third, I also made a call to the Texas Personal Trainer Certification Board. Apparently, having sexual relationships with clients is a serious violation of professional ethics. You could lose your license. And fourth, I've already shared all this information with Emma, including the name of the gym where you work. She's well connected in the community, considering her father owns 3 car dealerships in the area. I imagine that Jim is going to get some interesting calls. The room felt suffocating now, the air thick with tension and despair. Charlotte was crying openly, her body shaking. Please, Aaron. Please don't do this. I made a mistake, a terrible mistake. But don't destroy my whole life over it. We can talk, try couples therapy, we can. Aaron raised his hand again. No. There's no therapy that fixes this. You didn't make a mistake, Charlotte. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary or saying something thoughtless during an argument. This was a deliberate, repeated, conscious choice. You chose this every single day for at least 3 months, probably longer. He walked over to the front door and opened it wide. Now I want both of you out of my house. Charlotte, you have until noon tomorrow to gather your essentials. My lawyer will contact you about the rest. Gavin, if I see you within 100 feet of me or this property again, I'm going straight to the police with a restraining order request. And know this, these recordings are stored in multiple secure locations. If either of you tries to intimidate, threaten, or harm me in any way, they go online. Everyone you know will see them. Gavin left first, practically running out the door without looking back. Charlotte stood there for a moment, as if wanting to say something, maybe make one last appeal. But something in Aaron's expression must have made her change her mind. She grabbed her purse from the couch and walked toward the door, pausing only to whisper, "I'm sorry," so quietly it was barely audible. Aaron didn't respond. He simply closed the door the moment she stepped out. In the months that followed, the consequences unfolded like dominoes falling one by one. Charlotte was placed on paid leave by the boutique while HR investigated her misuse of the company car. 3 weeks later, she was officially fired. The divorce took 4 months to finalize, with Texas laws favoring Aaron given the undeniable proof of adultery. Aaron kept the house, the car registered in his name, and most of the couple's savings. Charlotte had to move into a small apartment across town, only landing a part-time job at a regular department store 2 months after losing her previous position. Gavin faced a similar cascade of gradual losses. Emma filed for divorce the week after the confrontation, and after 5 months of contentious proceedings, secured full custody of their 2 older children and a substantial child support agreement. The gym where Gavin worked initially suspended him during a 6-week internal investigation before ultimately terminating his contract. The certification board took 4 months to process the ethics complaint but eventually suspended his license for 2 years. His reputation in Houston's fitness industry was irreparably damaged. He ended up working at a chain gym in a distant suburb, earning a fraction of what he used to. Aaron threw himself into work, accepting extra shifts on the rig, letting the physical and mental routine distract him from the pain that still pulsed occasionally in quiet moments. But he didn't stay stuck in the past. 6 months after the divorce, at an oil engineering conference in Dallas, he met Rebecca, a brilliant 32-year-old geologist who worked for a competing company. They started talking during a coffee break and discovered shared interests in hiking and photography. Rebecca had a blunt, unfiltered honesty that Aaron found refreshing after years with someone who'd lied so easily. 9 months after the divorce was finalized, on a Saturday afternoon, Aaron was leaving a hardware store in Houston, carrying supplies to renovate the home office, when he spotted Charlotte across the parking lot. She was carrying shopping bags from the department store where she apparently now worked. Her brown and beige uniform looked cheap and ill-fitting. She seemed smaller somehow, diminished, the spark that used to light her now completely gone. She saw him too, their eyes meeting for a brief second across rows of parked cars. Aaron felt no anger. He felt no satisfaction at her obvious downfall. He simply felt nothing. It was like looking at a stranger, someone he might have briefly known in another life. He loaded his purchases into the truck bed, got in, and drove off. As he pulled out of the parking lot, he saw Charlotte in his rearview mirror, still standing in the same spot, watching him leave. He didn't look back again. That night, Aaron had dinner with Rebecca at an authentic Mexican restaurant she'd discovered. They laughed over inside jokes, planned a weekend trip to Big Bend National Park, and Aaron realized it was possible to build something new on the ruins of what had been destroyed. Trust didn't return overnight, but it was slowly coming back, one brick at a time. And this time, Aaron was building with someone who valued honesty as much as he did, someone who understood that some foundations, once broken, can't be repaired, only replaced with something stronger. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.